Aloha, welcome to another exciting episode of Mr. Mendo's Hack Attack. I am, of course, your fantabulous host who couldn't decide between a picture of a cute cat and a clip from Amadeus, so I used both.
A willing, billing, lovey-dovey would be my most tasty little dish.
Mr. Mendo. As you're probably aware, there's a new Batman movie coming out, and we're all going to have an intelligent conversation about the last Batman film, also known as The Dark Knight. Alright, now don't freak out. I'm not saying it was a terrible movie. As far as comic book movies go, it's actually perfectly well made. Though it damn well better be. It cost $200 million to make. But you can just tell that this really wants to be more than a comic book movie, and if you ask me, that's the source of most of its problems right there. This is the most joyless, humorless superhero movie ever made. Does anybody in this thing ever smile? I mean, aside from the guy who has a scar that forces him to smile all the time. Watching this movie, I never really felt like I was watching real people, just pawns in a ridiculously complicated game of chess. It might have made $1 billion, but big chunks of this movie make no sense at all. Now, I know what you're thinking. Mendo, you can nitpick any movie to death, but to me, The Dark Knight is different. It invites this kind of nitpicking by pretending to be important, when really it's about a guy dressed as a bat who beats up a clown. This won't be like one of my normal reviews where I just kind of go through it scene by scene and analyze it, because, well, everybody on Earth has seen this movie, so we all know what's going on here, alright? So this is going to be more like my Forrest Gump review. These are my nitpicks about The Dark Knight.
Number 1. Gotham City PD, world's most incompetent police force.
Watching this movie, you can draw one of two conclusions. A, about 75% of Gotham City cops are on the mob's payroll, or B, 100% of them are idiots.
That's not good.
I'm kind of leaning towards the latter. I mean, this is a movie where a guy is able to sneak a gun into a courthouse.
Hostile? I see you hostile! Carbon fiber, 28 caliber, made in China. If you want to kill a public servant, Mr. Maroney, I recommend you buy American.
Yeah, Harvey survives by sheer dumb luck and brushes it off like nothing happened. In the real world, there would be a massive investigation at the very least. Here it's just another day at the office. Later on, there's a funeral for the police commissioner who was killed by the Joker, who has made it clear that his next target is the mayor. So where do they hold the funeral? Where does the mayor give the eulogy? That's right, in the middle of a major city street in the line of sight of dozens of open windows. Gee! Who the fuck thought that would happen? The cops get even dumber during the big chase scene that's supposed to be the centerpiece of the movie. To protect Bruce's identity, Harvey pretends to be Batman and surrenders to the cops. The Joker ambushes the convoy taking Dent to jail. He fires on the truck, and no one ever shoots back at him. It's bizarre. I mean, what? Are the cops hoping he'll just run out of ammo eventually?
What is that? What is that, a bazooka?
Really, you're honestly telling me you can't get a beat on this guy. He's right out in the open. He basically has a target on his face. After the big chase, they capture the Joker and throw him in a holding cell. And there's this bit about how they can't identify him.
What do we got? No matches on prints, DNA, dental, clothing is custom, no labels. Nothing in his pockets but knives and lint.
I guess the writers were being all deep, implying that the Joker has literally no past, but come on, nobody thought to wash off his makeup. Shouldn't that be the first thing you're doing when you're trying to identify somebody? Give him a shower and put his face on the evening news. I'm reasonably certain that would turn something up. After Batman beats the information out of him, they leave the Joker in the interrogation room with just one cop guarding him from inside the interrogation room. So no surprise he becomes the Joker's hostage about 5 minutes later. Really? He couldn't watch him through the one-way glass? The glass he was standing behind for several minutes prior to this? The big finale involves the Joker loading up a couple of ferries with explosives. He gives each ferry captain a detonator and tells them they have 15 minutes to blow up the other boat. And the cops just stand around, waiting to get blown up. Why aren't they thinking of ways to secretly get people off the ferries? Why aren't they trying to defuse the bombs? Guys, you have a bomb squad. Get them on the phone and have them talk you through this. But as it so happens, all of the Joker's schemes rely on the cops being idiots, so, you know, lucky break for him, but more on that in a minute.
Number 2. Two-Face's story arc.
You know, This whole story arc with Two-Face, it's just way oversold, man. Harvey Dent is Gotham's DA. Bruce sees him as a white knight who's gonna put all the bad guys behind bars and be a symbol of hope to all of Gotham City.
Well, I'm sold.
Later on, the Joker gives Batman a choice between saving Harvey and saving Rachel, and guess what?
He's at 250 52nd Street, and she's on Avenue X. That's just her.
Which one you going after?
Rachel!
That's right, he puts Rachel's life over the life of the so-called savior of the city. Even Batman isn't buying any of this white knight crap. So the Joker tricks Batman into saving Harvey instead, but unfortunately he gets about half his face blown off and becomes Two-Face, the only supervillain with the power to refuse medical treatment.
The doctor says you're in agonizing pain, but you won't accept medication. That you're refusing to accept skin grafts.
Yeah, I'm calling shenanigans on that one. The doctors would have knocked his ass out. Sadly, this is where the movie's desire to make everything more realistic just fails. A colorful villain from the comics is now just a burn victim. Nolan's version of Two-Face is just grotesque. You spend less time getting involved with his story and more time wondering to yourself, how does he function without an eyelid? Wouldn't that make it impossible for him to sleep? And how can he even talk with half of his mouth burned off? But Two-Face is a man on a mission. The Joker killed his girlfriend, so he's gonna have sweet revenge. Not the Joker, though. That would make too much sense. No, instead he goes after the people who didn't stop the Joker from killing his girlfriend, because that makes perfect sense. And also he goes after Gordon, who probably did the most of anybody to try to save her. But before he can kill Gordon's son, Batman takes him down, and Harvey dies from the fall. Yeah, after all that build-up, they killed off Two-Face before he did much of anything. But hey, he got almost as much screen time as Venom, so there's that. The body's not even cold and they've already got a plan. Batman will take the rap for all the murders committed by Harvey. You see, they don't want to sully Harvey's image.
I killed those people.
Yeah, okay, but why not just pin this on the Joker? You know, the psychopath who's been going around killing cops and announcing it ahead of time. He seems like a good fall guy. In fact, now that Harvey's dead, Batman is the only hope the residents of the city have left. Wouldn't it make more sense for Batman's image not to become tarnished?
Number 3. The War on Terror.
Nothing ruins this movie more than the heavy-handed references to 9/11 and the War on Terror. And you know what? They were just plain unnecessary. In the comics, the Joker is a real psychopath. Part of what makes him scary is the fact that he takes all this intelligence and ability to plan and just depths of pure evil and uses it for ends that are incredibly petty. Here, he's just a terrorist. He even recruits suicide bombers. Well, I mean, he turns his goons into bombs, but that's neither here nor there.
Is that a phone?
Once the police get Joker into custody, they let Batman use some advanced interrogation techniques on him, also known as violating every civil right he has by beating the crap out of him. And in the most annoying parallel to the War on Terror, Bruce invents a machine that can eavesdrop on everyone in the city. It's an obvious reference to wiretapping, which for some reason gets Morgan Freeman all pissed off.
With half the city feeding you sonar, you can image all of Gotham. This is wrong.
I've got to find this man, Lucius.
At what cost?
Wait. You're telling me that you're perfectly fine with giving Batman weapons and a vehicle that's basically a tank, but eavesdropping on people's phone calls, that crosses the line. So yeah, Batman has been turned into a mouthpiece for the Bush administration. But I don't think that was Nolan's point. I think he was just so determined to make everything nuanced and different shades of gray that he accidentally made a pro-Bush movie. And you know, that could have worked, except I don't really buy that any of this is necessary. The Joker doesn't give up information because he's being beaten up, he does it because it's all part of his master plan. And after Batman invents his cell phone machine, he never actually uses it to eavesdrop on anybody. All he does use it for is to become Daredevil. Hi, I'm Bat Sonar. You may remember me from such movies that people hate as Batman Forever.
Because when Schumacher does it, it's crap. But when Nolan does it, it's genius.
So yeah, as it stands, I really just get the feeling that the Dark Knight detective resorted to torture and wiretapping because he was too damn lazy to use his detective skills.
Number 4. The Joker.
My main point of contention with this movie is the Joker. don't get me wrong, Heath Ledger's performance is the most interesting thing about this movie, but that's not really saying anything. I mean, it's pretty easy to be interesting when everyone around you is boring as hell. Seriously, how do you make a movie with Sirius Black, God, and Jack Carter and give them nothing to do? But the thing is, this movie doesn't really get the Joker, like, at all. This Joker, he's too logical. He puts too much thought into things.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan?
No, you look like a guy who has several plans, each more convoluted than the last. Let's take, for instance, the Joker's plot to kill the mayor. First, he announces his plan by putting an obituary in tomorrow's newspaper.
Because we found his next target. He's put it in tomorrow's paper.
What? Can you even do that? It's the obituaries, not the classifieds. After this, he kills 2 random guys.
Check the names. Richard Dent.
Patrick Harvey.
Harvey Dent.
Oh, hold on. Dick York, Dick Sargent, Sergeant York. Wow, that's weird.
What's with all the clues the Joker leaves? Did they get him confused with the Riddler or Clue Master? Okay, but back to the plan. The Joker somehow knows that Batman will magically appear at the crime scene and cut a brick from the wall because it contains bullet fragments. He also knows that Batman will use a special machine that can piece together the bullet fragments and somehow give him the fingerprint of the guy who fired the gun.
And there's the thumbprint he left when he pushed the round in the clip.
Jesus, I wouldn't buy this kind of technology in a Bond movie. The Joker also plans it so that the fingerprint belongs to a guy who lives in an apartment overlooking the Commissioner's funeral. And then he sets up a kitchen timer to go off at the exact moment when Bruce shows up and goes to the window. This causes the shade to flip up, distracting the cops, which lets the Joker and his men fire on the mayor. Rube Goldberg on meth could not have come up with something this complicated. And would you believe that's not even the most convoluted plan the Joker comes up with? I don't even have time to get into the one that gets him caught by the police. That one's straight out of Ultima.
The Joker planned to be caught. He wanted me to lock him up in the MCU.
Right. So, according to my calculations, the Joker's plan contained everything that was in Batman's insanely complicated plan to catch him, plus some other stuff that's even more complicated. It's a superset of bullshit. And for God's sake, how the hell does the Joker blow up an entire hospital? Seriously, he does a fully controlled demolition. How could he plant all those explosives without anyone noticing? It's not like he could just sneak in after it was closed. This is a hospital. It's populated 24 hours a day. On a related note, I have a real issue with the concept of posthumous Oscars. Call me cynical, but I'm betting Robert Downey Jr. would have appreciated that Oscar a lot more than a corpse. And those are my Dark Knight nitpicks. So we could have avoided all this. Could have been a little less complicated, but no. The terrorism references were unnecessary, the plot twists were unnecessary, and they made no sense. You could have cut all that out and still had the same movie, only 30 minutes shorter. I don't care what point you're trying to make, a superhero movie does not need to be over 2.5 hours long. Sadly, judging by the runtime, the next movie is going to be more of the same, only even more overblown and self-important. Also, please note, I never mentioned the scene where Batman leaves the Joker and his goons alone in his penthouse with a room full of party guests. That would have been way too easy. But at the end of the day, what matters is that I got through a review of a superhero movie without Sophie showing up, and that's victory in and of itself. I'm Mr. Mendo, and this has been Mr. Mendo's Hack Attack.